What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my first look cash build, my first look picks here for week 14 of the NFL. Really looking forward to get into it. As always, going to be going over my first look build, going over the plays that really stuck out to me from a first look perspective. And of course, I'll be having my final plays posted later in the week, and there's going to be a ton of them because there are so many plays that stuck out to me. It was really hard to decide which ones I want to get into this lineup, but going to go with it here. Before we get started, as always, if you can leave a like, subscribe if you have not yet, appreciate that a ton. Appreciate all the support, I really do. And with that said, we're going to get into it here. So at quarterbacks, obviously the guy that stuck out to me was Herbert, but Mahomes I like a lot in tournaments this week going against Miami. Miami's a defense that's been pretty good as of late, but I mean, it's Mahomes. It's so much upside each and every week with Mahomes and that Chiefs stack. Aaron Rodgers I'm liking a lot for tournaments. Ryan Tannehill, somebody else I'm liking, but yeah, like what really stuck out to me was Justin Herbert here at 6,800 versus Atlanta. In this game, he got a 49.5 point game total where the Chargers are going to be 2.5 point underdogs. And I think both of those are kind of surprising there, the total and that the Chargers are 2.5 point underdogs. I think people are looking way too much into the Chargers' last game against the Patriots because they looked absolutely awful. I mean, everybody on that team did awful from a fantasy perspective. Worst game of the year by far. I mean, Herbert was 26 for 53, 49% on his passing attempts. And I think people are going to look into that. I really do. The line's indicating that for sure. I think the Chargers should probably be favored here against Atlanta, and I think that total should be a little bit higher, as Atlanta games always seem to score pretty high because of how bad the defense is. So, yeah, I like Herbert here a lot. He's averaging 24.3 DraftKings points per week, and I do think he's going to bounce back from a very poor game last week, and I do think it's going to affect his ownership as well. I don't think many people are going to go after him because, man, did he look really bad. But you got such a much better matchup here against this against this Atlanta defense compared to the Patriots defense of last week. Like, Atlanta has literally one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL, and the Falcons have given up the 6th most DraftKings points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year as well. So I like Herbert. I like the stacking options, fantastic stacking options. Keenan Allen, I think you can stack him with Austin Eckler because he's going to be going out there catching a lot of passes. Hunter Henry, the list goes on there. So give me Justin Herbert there for the first look cash build quarterback here. At running back, there's a lot of great plays I like at running back as well. Probably going to stay away from Dalvin Cook this week in a really bad matchup against Tampa Bay. Christian McCaffrey's questionable. I don't know if he's returning as of yet. I like Derrick Henry a lot. I like James Robinson a lot. I like Austin Eckler a lot. But the guy I'm going to probably go to is going to be Aaron Jones here at 7,600 versus Detroit. He got a 55-point game total, which I believe is the best on the slate, the highest on the slate. And the Packers are going to be 7.5 point favorites, which I really do like for Jones here. And Jones is averaging 19.9 DraftKings points per game. He does have 9 touchdowns in 10 games as well. And he's gotten 18 touches in his last 2 games. I'd really like to see him get that 20 touch plus game. But man, Jamal Williams is definitely being involved. And, I mean, a guy as talented as Jones, you'd think they'd use him even more, like they're out here giving Dalvin Cook like 30-plus touches, Derrick Henry 30-plus touches. I think Jones should be getting at least like 20. I mean, so even like 18 against the Lions defense is definitely more than good here. 18 touches against the worst run defense in the league sounds good to me. The Lions have given up the most DraftKings points to opposing running backs, and you can't really ask for a better matchup here for Jones, and you can't really ask for a better game script here for Jones. So I'm all over Jones here. 7,600, I like the price. I like that you're getting a nice discount off of the top guys, and I think the ceiling's there. I think he has one of the high ceilings on the slate just due to the matchup and due to him being very good in general. So plugging in Aaron Jones for this week. Going down a little bit, so this really stuck out to me. I think Montgomery is a good play, by the way, but this really stuck out to me here. That is DeAndre Swift. Hopefully he plays. I mean, he's questionable. Hopefully he finally plays because I've been waiting to play him for the past couple weeks. And DeAndre Swift going against Green Bay here, opposite of Aaron Jones, which I really do like. You get that 55-point game total, which is the highest on the slate, and the Lions are going to be 7.5 point underdogs. So Swift is averaging 14.5 DraftKings points per game. He did take over the backfield in Week 10, I believe, before getting a concussion, putting him out for a couple weeks. And in that Week 10 game where he was announced the starter, announced that he was going to be getting the majority of the touches, he got 16 rushing attempts, 5 targets, 5 receptions, so 21 total touches. I mean, if he can get 21 total touches here against Green Bay, it is going to be a great day here. So fantastic matchup against Green Bay, who does struggle versus the run. Highest total on the slate should lead to some touchdown upside as well. I'd be kind of surprised. I mean, if Swift gets 20 touches and does not score in this game, that should be really high scoring. So like Swift a lot. Don't know how popular he's going to be. Hasn't played in a while, but man, this is such a great spot for him. This is such a great price for him as well. I'm going to be plugging Swift into my first look cash build. All right, we'll go to wide receivers and then come back. And man, is there a ton of wide receivers I like? And it was so hard to pick my top 3 to even fit in a lineup. The first guy that sticks out right away is going to be, if I can find him. There we go, going up a little bit. So obviously, Davante Adams, man, this dude gets it done each and every week. If you can go up and afford Davante Adams, do it. I say it each week. If you can get him, go get him. The matchup's there, 100%. Tyreek Hill has been on an absolute tear. Last week, did not have the best week, but still the dude's been on a tear, still 10 targets. Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams are definitely going to be in my tournament builds. But for cash, I mean, getting a nice savings here, Keenan Allen. And I love this play a ton. 7,700 versus Atlanta. You got that 49.5 point game total. You get that stack with Herbert. The Chargers are going to be 2.5 point underdogs here. And so Allen is averaging 19.7 DraftKings points per game. He's been very consistent over the course of the season, but he did have a poor game last week, and he still received 11 targets in that game, 5 receptions. And I'm really loving this Herbert Allen stack this week against his Atlanta defense. You got a fantastic matchup against his Atlanta passing defense. And the Falcons have given up the 3rd most DraftKings points to opposing wide receivers. I do expect the Chargers to bounce back. I do expect the Chargers to have a really good game. And I do think Allen's going to be a very big part of that. So give me Keenan Allen here. 90 receptions on the year. 923 yards. The dude's been a beast all year. The dude's been great in cash games all year. And I think the price has been... he's been disrespected in the price a lot, and I still think 7,700, especially against Atlanta, is way too cheap here. So definitely plugging him in the first look cash build. So going down, and I'll tell you what, right now, I do want to attack this Minnesota passing defense, and what better way to do it than playing Mike Evans here at 6,600. And you got the 51.5 point game total, which is one of the highest on the slates, where the Buccaneers are going to be 6.5 point favorites. And Evans is averaging 15.1 DraftKings points per game, averaging about 7 targets per game as well. And he has battled through some injuries this year, but seems to be pretty healthy right now. And I really love this matchup here against this poor Minnesota passing defense. And like I said, I really want to attack this Vikings passing defense, and I think Evans is way too cheap here. So Evans, way too cheap. Chris Godwin's questionable. I'm assuming Godwin plays, but like I said, it's early in the week. We don't know yet. If Godwin does not play, I mean, I'm just going to lock Mike Evans in because he's in a smash spot already. But yeah, give me Evans here at 6,600. But like I said, yeah, has been having kind of an off year, but mostly due to injuries here. So I do think he's healthy now, and the matchup's definitely here to have a really good game. So give me Mike Evans. Going down, and we need some value here because we got some studs in our lineup right now. Lots of options. I'll get more into it for the final video, but going down, something that really stuck out to me was DENZEL MIMS here, 4,100. Going against Seattle, another team that I really do like attacking, especially through the air. Got a 47-point game total here, where the Jets are, believe it or not, 13.5 point underdogs. And yeah, it's a fantastic matchup against the Seattle defense. I can see why they are such big underdogs, but just seems way too cheap here for MIMS at 4,100. I think he has some serious upside, especially considering the matchup against the Seattle team. And they should be coming from behind, leading to more targets for MIMS, which I do think is huge. I think this game script is huge for MIMS here, especially at the price. And yeah, possible garbage time for the Jets as well. Would not be surprised if we did see MIMS score. We haven't seen him score yet, but this seems like the matchup to do it. So give me MIMS here. I think he's way too cheap. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. It sucks that he's on the Jets, but should be getting some decent opportunity here with a good matchup. So give me MIMS at 4,100. All right, we'll go into the tight end. Again, got to pay down at tight end. And going down. So, yeah, very frustrating to see Jordan Akins. We thought that since, Will Fuller's gone, he'd have a better game last week. Did not have a great game. He did have 3 targets, 2 receptions. Didn't score much, but still, he's so cheap here. He's so cheap, and he has a good matchup here against Chicago. So for that reason, I am intrigued. So 44.5 point game total, and the Texans are 1 point favorites versus Chicago. And he is averaging only 6.5 DraftKings points per game. Really solid matchup here against the Chicago team that does struggle versus the tight end. Chicago has given up the 3rd most DraftKings points to opposing tight ends this year. Extremely cheap punt tight end. It allows you to get other guys in your lineup. And you really don't need much hit value here at tight end as well. So 3 targets last week, dropped 2 touchdowns on Thanksgiving Day. The dude should have had 2 touchdowns that day, which sucks because I did have him in a lineup. But yeah, I mean, he should get some opportunity. The matchup's there. With no Will Fuller, I can't talk. With no Will Fuller, you think that he should get some more targets, but man, only 3 last week is kind of concerning. But would not be surprised in the slightest if he had a kind of a breakout game against Chicago here with the matchup and all that. So very cheap here. You don't need much. Get a couple catches, I'll definitely be happy because it allows me to get other guys in my lineup. So Jordan Akins in there, and then we'll go to the flex. Fill out the flex, and of course it's going to be a running back, and I really like this play going down to 5,600, and we have Myles Gaskin, which I was on last week. Later in the week, he scored 15.1 DraftKings points. And Myles Gaskin going against Kansas City here, he got a 49.5 point game total, where the Dolphins are going to be 7-point underdogs, and he's averaging 14.3 DraftKings points per week. And the cool thing about Gaskin is he gets a ton of touches. He really does, especially for his price. He's had at least 20 touches in his last 6. He's in 5 of his last 6 games, which I love. So he did return from injury last week and ran the ball 21 times, had 2 receptions on 2 targets. And yeah, before that, 6 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, which I absolutely love at this price. So should see some pass catching upside in a game that the Dolphins will more than likely be trailing here against Kansas City. I can't see them be out in front, really. It just seems way too cheap here at 5,600 for the amount of volume that he's going to receive in this game. So Myles Gaskin filling out the last flex spot there. All right, then we are left with 2,200 with defense, and let's see. Not much options down here, but definitely going to punt it down at defense. At least in this lineup I did last week, it worked out okay. I had the Jets in some lineups for a punt. They scored 5 DraftKings points. I was happy with that at their price. Don't want the Lions. Don't want the Jaguars. It's between the Eagles and the Saints. I'll go the Eagles. I'll go the Eagles defense. Of course, averaging 6.7 DraftKings points per week, going against Taysom Hill, who could maybe get some turnovers. Not expecting much, but at 2,200, get me 5-6 points. I'll be happy. It allows me to pay up another spot. So that is it for the first look cash build, first look lineup here. Justin Herbert at quarterback. I love it. I love the matchup. Aaron Jones. Great matchup against Detroit, one of the worst, if not the worst, run defense in the league. DeAndre Swift, hopefully he plays. He's questionable, but the matchup is definitely there. Keenan Allen, love it pairing him with Herbert this week. Love the matchup versus Atlanta. And Allen, solid, really, no matter who they play, but the matchup, you can't ask for a better one here against Atlanta. Mike Evans, I want to attack this Minnesota defense, passing defense in some type of way. And what not better way than getting Mike Evans at 6,600. Just seems way too cheap. Chris Godwin's questionable. If Godwin does not play, which I think he's going to play, but if he doesn't, I'm going to be even higher on Mike Evans. Denzel Mims, 4,100, punt wide receiver there with some upside against Seattle, who has one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Just don't need much to 4,100. Jordan Akins, punt tight end down here, going against Chicago, which does struggle versus the tight end. Atkins, you'd think that he'd get more targets and stuff with Will Fuller out. Maybe this could be the week to do it. So I do not hate Atkins at that price and in this lineup in general. Myles Gaskin, 5,600. I think he's way too cheap here. He's getting 20 touches, like I mentioned, 5 of his last 6 games. Going against Kansas City in a game they should be trailing, but should lead to pass catching upside. Should maybe score as well. So give me Myles Gaskin there at the flex spot, and then finally punting down to defense. Going with the Eagles, why not? Give me a couple points, I'll be more than happy. Get a couple sacks, get an interception against Taysom Hill. Maybe get an interception or 2, which should be fine. So that's about it. Make sure you guys tune into my video later in the week for my final plays, and there should be a ton because there's so many plays that stuck out. I wanted to talk about a lot more than this, but just wanted to give the first look cash build, and that's about it. And good luck, guys, and let's get it this week.